You're listening to the Hunt Suburbia podcast. I'm your host, Pat Guyette. Big bucks I've been dreaming often, every night till I'm in a coffin. Vermont woods to the burbs of Boston, I'm looking for a tree to get lost in. Crisp mornings, little dust in the snow. Quality time, just me and my bow. Fall evenings, I know just where to go for some quality times for me and my bow. It's just me and my bow. All right, this episode is brought to you by the Northeast Big Buck Club. They are our new presenting sponsor. We're going to be doing a lot with them throughout the year. I'll be at their exclusive members-only banquet on August 21st. There are still tickets. There's going to be many, many amazing mounts there, a bunch of great hunters, some good food. You got to become a member first of the Northeast Big Buck Club, so go to bigbuckclub.com. Membership dues are $25 annually. You get access to their 5 magazines that they put out, which are incredible, feature stories of Northeastern hunters. You get access to all of their scores if you want a buck scored. Really great group of hunters. It's a nonprofit. Become a member. See me at the awards banquet, and we'll be doing some cool stuff with them. And this episode is with my buddy Matt, who is a relatively new hunter. We talk about a lot of great hunting stuff, a lot of good tactics to get into, recapping his turkey season, and stuff that you can do to start scouting now and getting ready for this year. So let's get back into it. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Okay, another episode of Hunt Suburbia. After a little bit of a hiatus, we are back. And I'm sitting here with my friend Matt. How's it going, Matt?
I'm great, Pat. Thanks for having me on. It's quite an honor to be the first guest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. First guest of the 2021 hunting season. Matt is, he's been hunting, not too long. I think, 3-4 years, 5 years?
3 years, 4 years.
3 years, 4 years, and always with a bow?
Yeah, I started with a bow because there's no entry point to that. You don't need any special licenses or permissions. And I have a shotgun now, so I haven't done any shotgun deer hunting. I mean, I've been kind of Elmer Fudding around a little bit, but never fired a shot. And this season, got a nice turkey.
What'd you get for a turkey again? Like a nice, did you weigh him? I don't even know. How long was the beard?
It was heavy to carry out. I didn't do the whole thing. I think it was 9.5-inch beard. Nice.
I don't know if that's good or not. One of the things I wanted to catch everybody up on, because, we were talking a lot in the last season about, I was going to get into turkey hunting this season, but I didn't do any turkey hunting at all. Some personal stuff came up and I just couldn't do anything in the spring, didn't get out. And to be honest, turkey hunting just doesn't get me up like deer hunting does. I mean, it just doesn't. Were you excited about it? I think you really liked getting into it, right?
I went full berserker this year on turkeys. It was insane. The turkey that I got was in the first 28 minutes of the season.
And it was your first time hunting turkeys, right? You didn't hunt last year, did you?
I did not get a turkey last year. I tried to hunt, but I can't remember if I put my full effort into it. I remember a couple spots where I bumped into a few guys, and my honey hole that normally I go to, no action there. But I didn't get a turkey last year. But 2 years ago, I did get a turkey. So I tried. That's my one great selling feature is persistence. So I never give up, and you just keep going and going and going and sitting, and eventually a bird will walk in front of you.
I mean, that's the common denominator with all hunting for people honestly, afraid to take the step to get into it. As long as you are persistent, even if you're the worst hunter in the world, you're going to get one eventually. You just got to spend time in the stand and in the field, So it's the common denominator.
I made so many mistakes the first season. It was a comedy of errors. And I think probably what sums up the whole thing, I had missed opportunities with so many birds and scared so many birds. And at one point, I was just sitting there all day, and I didn't hear any gobbles. I didn't hear anything. And then it was like 9 a.m. I said, this is the dumbest thing, just to sit out in the woods. I've been there for like 4 or 5 hours.
Now, had you been practicing, calling and stuff, this early year? Like, how did you go about practicing?
Oh,
that?
I'm next level this year. I'll tell you about this year, but the other time when I sat there until 9 a.m., I just thought it was the most useless effort and such a waste of time. And I got all aggravated and I stood up. And right when I went to move to stand up, I looked over and there was like 4 toms, 30 yards off, coming right towards me. Because I guess they heard me call like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And they were coming right towards me. And as soon as I moved to stand up, they all looked right at me. And then it's like they don't run, but they put their head down and they disappear so quickly. You cannot get your act together.
Oh, yeah.
To try to put a bead on them.
Yeah. Oh, they're a different animal. And like, I've gone out like once or twice in Vermont with some buddies and never gone out to like actually hunt them. I was bringing a camera that time, but I see them all the time deer hunting and they pick you off. Like them and coyotes. They kind of have the similar, like as soon as you move an inch, they see you. Like deer don't see you as well as the coyotes and turkeys. Like they got sharp eyesight, man.
Turkeys have eyes and they know how to use them, but the power of the ghillie can take your game to the next level.
You've been using the ghillie?
I got this ghillie online. I think it's like theghillieguy.com or ghilliesuits.com or who knows, but it's called the bowhunter ghillie. So the right arm is all the ghillie stuff, whatever it's called. I know it's cringy. I'm sure it has a name. Do you know what it is?
No. What
it's
is it?
Something. There's a billion guys listening they're smacking their head right now.
What do you mean? The
thread? It has a name, like snipers. That you go get the ghillie net.
Yeah.
And then you buy the blank.
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, so the yarn, I guess you call it. The left arm doesn't have any. So when you draw back, because I shoot right-handed, you draw back and the string isn't going to hit all the stuff. So I had the ghillie suit on. My buddy...
It's kind of like your right palm is hairy, but your left one isn't.
Well, I'm left-handed. I'm not sure how that works.
Oh, yeah. Right.
I'm right-eye dominant, but left-handed, so I shoot righty. Anyway, these birds came 7 yards up to me, but I was holding my tag for my son. I have a 12-year-old son, and I've been trying to get him out there to go turkey hunting this year. But I was out with a buddy calling for him and rooting for him just because I love to get out there and I love to, like, turkey hunting can be madness. But when they start coming in and gobbling, it's super exciting.
Yeah.
So I can't believe you're not into it yet.
Not yet.
I say yet,
and
you will be.
And guess what? Turkey hunting season's over, and we should talk deer hunting because
that's true.
I think a lot of the people tuning in are going to want to already start getting ready for. I mean, I didn't even know that I was ready for deer hunting yet until today I checked some cameras. I knew you were coming today. It's the first podcast I've done in a while. I'm like, I should check a few cameras just in case something comes up that I want to talk about. We'll talk about it later. Something awesome did come up on one of those cameras, but
before we do though,
yeah.
Let me tell my ghillie story.
Before that, hang on. Just want to let people know. We're going to come back with podcasts every single week starting in August. The first Sunday in August, we're going to be weekly again. We're going to drop this one before August, and I'll probably drop one or two, until August comes around. But then once August rolls, we're back. We're going to be back in a full every single week, Sundays, you can count on it podcast. And we're going to have some awesome guests this year. As you probably heard in the, the announcement before the podcast, the intro to the podcast, we're partnering with the Northeast Big Buck Club this year. They're our presenting sponsor for the entire year. A bunch of awesome dudes. They are a nonprofit organization. You can call an official scorer to come score any of your bucks that you want. If you hunt big bucks in the Northeast, you know who the Northeast Big Buck Club is. You have their magazines. You've had scorers over at your house. And we're going to be at their banquet in August and be interviewing a bunch of dudes who have killed the top bucks in the Northeast. I'm going to try to get one from every state. While we're there, the biggest buck from every state killed last year, and get those interviews out. Hoping to go up to Maine and get some interviews with Hal Blood and the Big Woods Bucks guys and do a bunch of individual podcasts up there. And, who knows, maybe even a Benoit over in Vermont. So I'm hoping to get a really nice lineup this year. But until August, it's going to be intermittent as I'm trying to build this stuff back up. But let's go back to what you were saying.
So I could tell naturally how you'd want to mix me in with all those guys from the Big Bucks Club. It's
We're
almost
just-
like
hey.
you said, August is going to be amazing. But until then, let's
No.
hear about your ghillie story about the turkey.
We're warming up here, baby.
Okay, all right. So my buddy was calling these birds in, and the birds wanted to come to the edge where I was, but there was no tree cover. They say like sit against a tree, so
Yep.
they can't. There's no outline or something.
Yep.
So I had my ghillie suit on, and the birds were running right towards me, but I wasn't calling. And my buddy was. They were coming up to the tree line, and they were gonna head over.
Your buddy was calling. Was he situated behind you?
He was like 100 or 150 yards to my left, and I'm right at the edge of the field, and they're
Okay.
in the field.
Yeah.
So they don't like to be in the field because there's no cover there.
Yeah.
So they're coming to the edge of the field to walk the line, like deer do on the transition line. And I was right there. They didn't know I was there. I wasn't making any noise. So I just sat down on my legs and put the ghillie hood on and just sat there like this. They came up to like 5 to 7 yards from me.
You weren't, and you didn't have cover behind you at all. You were just in the ghillie.
No.
Yeah.
I was just at the edge of the field in this like ferns and stuff. But my head was right there and I had the face mask on and they were 7 yards there and I just sat there. But my outline, it wasn't a head on top of shoulders. It was kind of a green blob
Yeah.
with yarn.
Yeah. And you killed it, right?
No, I wasn't hunting that day.
Okay.
Because
so your turkey you weren't wearing the ghillie. At least you
no.
At least you know that you prove the ghillie works, though. You know they got.
I can't
that
remember
close
if
to
I
you.
did wear that.
Dude, you got a bad memory.
I
Come
do.
on,
I
that
do.
was a few months ago, maybe a month ago.
Yeah, but
You can't remember if you were wearing a ghillie killing your first turkey? Come on.
it wasn't the first ever. It was the first of the season. I mean, you're waking up at 3 a.m. You got to roll out of bed. You got to trudge in there, set up all the decoys. I went with a buddy. We had like 4 or 5 decoys. It was perfect. We called him in. The one thing came right in there, and we popped him. It was great.
That's exciting, but
Yeah.
like I can't wait to actually like you're making me think about getting a ghillie now because I mean I've heard great things about especially in the right situation. If you're hunting in high grass or you're hunting like CRP type field or something and it's hard to get into a stand like the place I was just showing you videos of, right? There's no mature trees. It's bush, it's high grass. Like that type of an environment would be perfect for a ghillie suit. And I'm thinking about doing it. I mean, I killed 1 buck on the ground last year. I've killed a lot of bucks in Vermont with a rifle on the ground. Like everything there in Vermont was on the ground. A ghillie really might do it, man.
So the reason why I bought the ghillie is to get into those spots that you don't want to bring a stand. Because at the time I had a climber.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about a kayak hunt. And I was thinking, man, there's no way that I'm going to bring this climber all the way in to do. It's like a 20-pound chunk of metal. And there's no way that I could get that and a bow and all my gear on
It's so
top of a
noisy.
kayak.
Yeah.
So I bought the ghillie and I thought, yeah, I'll just shove that in one of the dry holes of the kayak. And so part of the reason why I got into hunting was for the adventure aspect, just to get out there and do some crazy things and to go where people don't like to go. And
Yeah, but let's talk about how you got to that point, though. Like, what were you doing before that? Were you fishing at all beforehand? Were you like,
Yeah.
How did how did you take the leap and why? Like something had to have triggered. Like, I got to start taking an adventure.
Yeah, so I'm not a city slicker, but I'm not a farm boy as well. So I grew up in Foxborough, and I grew up at the end of a cul-de-sac, a dead-end street.
Yep.
And we used to spend all of our time in the woods because we had some conservation land back there and a little stream that went up to a pond. And so my parents used to kick us out of the house and say, we'll call you for dinner or come back when it's dark. And
Yep.
we were just stuck outside all
Yep.
day. And the reason why there was 4 of us in the family, 4 kids in the family, and inside we would just drive the parents nuts. So at a certain point, we were all kicked out, whether it was January or August, and we just had to make do.
I was talking with my wife about that recently. Like, you kind of can't do that these days. Just let your kids wander around, and you come back when the street lights come on, and that's when you know to go back home. Like, that's how I grew up too, and she did as well, and you did. But we're kind of like past that now.
I think it exists.
It depends on where you live. If you still live on like the end of a cul-de-sac, then yeah, it's probably fine.
When we first moved into our house, my kids, they're 9 and 12 now, but they were pretty small, and they could ride bikes around. and there was a school bus and a UPS truck. I don't know if it was 65 or 75 miles an hour, but, there was like leaves falling off trees and dust bowls and tumbleweed. It was insane. But they're not there anymore for some reason.
I think that was the filming of Speed.
Maybe.
You know that movie?
It was 50 miles an hour or whatever. Mom, sit down. Keanu Reeves. But yeah, so on the street, now it's better. So the kids are playing around. I'm trying to get them into the woods in the back, but they come back with ticks, and their mom yells at them all the time. So they don't like to go to the woods. They're kind of petrified of the woods.
Ticks fucking suck, man.
They should be.
They suck. Ticks suck. You got to spray your stuff with permethrin. You have my cat. You just came in. I got a Bengal cat. He's got wild genes, an Asian leopard cat he's bred with 4 generations ago. So I think he's like a little under 20% Asian leopard cat, wild. It's a wild, small leopard in Central Asia. And he, we've been letting him out. He was an indoor cat for years. We started letting him out, this summer when we had our kid, this past summer. He was driving us nuts. We were giving all the attention to our kid. He was at the door every day wanting to go out. We finally said, all right, you're an outdoor cat now. We gave him, tick treatment and stuff, but we did it lapsed like 10 days and we forgot. And then we're like, oh shit, we got to give him, this is just like beginning of May. We got to give him another drop. Gave him a drop. He got sicker than a dog, sicker than a cat, I guess. He was for 2 weeks laid out. And it all turned out finally that we found out he had a, what was it called? It was something to do plasmosis.
Oh yeah.
It was a tick. Yeah. It was a tick-borne illness, and he was just so sick. And the vet said, if you guys aren't willing to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to figure out what's wrong with him, because he's got broad symptoms right now. If you don't want to spend thousands, then, he's sick enough right now to be euthanized. So we thought about euthanizing him. But we ended up doing a little bit more, and spent a couple $1,000s on him. But we figured it out. So ticks, man, they're no joke. Your pets. And for humans, they can do the same thing to us. You really got to protect yourself.
So this spring obviously was insane with ticks, and I'm sorry to go back to turkey, but I'm honestly my mind is a little bit stuck in turkey season, just because I did go full berserker on turkeys. But
wait until you get your first big buck picture this year, and you're going to be forgetting about turkeys.
So that's true, and this year was the first year I sprayed the pants with permethrin.
Yep.
And it's night and day.
Yeah.
I did not get any ticks on me all season. I was walking around fields.
Yep.
It was wet. It was dry. It was hot. It was cold.
Yep.
I went to the woods, the fields, everywhere.
Yeah. You
Nothing.
Use Sawyer permethrin probably, and they're not a sponsor anymore, but who cares? Their product is incredible. Sawyer permethrin, yellow bottle, spray your stuff down with that. It lasts a long time. You can wear it for I think 60 or 90 days, something like that. Read the back of it. It can take 8 washes in the washing machine.
I don't really see the merits of washing hunting clothes very often. I mean, for turkeys,
if you're sweating, you got to.
I don't care. I treat them with the permethrin, and I think of myself as bulletproof. And those pants go in the garage until season's over.
You gotta. But if you sweat going into those deep spots, the deer are gonna pick that off. You gotta wash them.
I told you I'm stuck in turkey season.
Now some guys, Jake Bennett, I think he says he washes his clothes after every single sit. I don't get, I'm definitely not like that. But at least every week I'm washing them at least once, especially if I feel like I'm sweating.
I think the spring with the ticks, though, they're out there thirsty for blood much more.
Yeah.
I don't get as many of them in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, come deer season, the laundry happens much more.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
I don't spray down as much. I told you I'm still stuck in the turkey season.
Dude, move past.
Yeah, let's move past.
Move past the turkeys.
I brought some show and tell in honor of my first of many visits.
That is a beautiful first buck. That was your first buck, right?
I'm going to be one of the featured speakers in August at your banquet. But yeah, that's the rack from my first buck.
I love it.
I was absolutely thrilled at that opportunity. I had been sitting in this tree stand because I'm a new hunter. I'm an adult onset hunter in my 40s. As I got started, obviously the internet and talking to fellow hunters has been an amazing resource, but there's certain things that you just don't pick up on unless you actually get out there and get in the woods.
Yeah.
One of them is when you're making a setup or setting up a tree stand for deer, you want a backdrop on the tree stand so you're not skylined.
Yeah.
So I picked the best tree. There was leaves everywhere, and I was completely covered.
Yep.
I got up there opening day, October 7th or 15th or whatever it was, and I was like totally camouflaged. I was just blending in so well. Of course, come November, all the leaves were gone. So I realized I was in a birch tree, and deer season is mostly all the leaves are gone.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people pick those evergreens, any kind of pine tree you can find.
Picture like a school bus at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and that's what my tree stand was like. A big dope sitting there in a black birch tree, totally exposed.
And he was in a ghillie suit too, so he made himself twice as big.
With yarn. So yeah, I was sitting up there, and this doe came over the hill, but I was facing this open area, and I was like, there's a swamp there, there's a field in front of me. I did a bunch of hacking, and I poked some beans in the dirt, and I'm like, yeah, this is like a food plot. I'm my first year, like seriously trying to get a buck. And so I had this whole area, and I'm sitting there, and one time I was hunting there, and a deer came like way over to my right. It was like 45 yards away, went over this little hill and went down like really far from where my tree stand was. So I said, oh man, okay. But that was like a one of, but I'm sure my area, I had cameras there, and I had bucks on the cameras. I'm like, this is the spot.
Yep.
But you're just sitting there in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
So the next time I was there, doe crept in to my right, 45 yards away, and stayed right at the top of the hill. I was like, oh, that's a shot right there. And I didn't have any deer that season. It's like, let's fill the freezer. I mean, I'm in zone 10. It's 10, right?
Yeah.
So I had my 10 or 11 doe tags, right?
45 yards is a good poke for even a seasoned hunter.
So 45 yards, I'm like, I'm obviously brand new hunting. It's not an ethical shot. I've never even tried to do something like that before.
Yep.
Do not do that. That is ridiculous.
Good choice. And it was on a hill. You're never supposed to shoot at a deer on the crest of a hill.
Well,
unless it wasn't actually on the crest.
It was kind of like a bump with a tree behind him. There was another hill behind him, but it was actually level to where I was in the tree stand because I was kind of down the hill. So he was up a hill, but not crested on a ridgeline. Yeah. So I went home, I set up the bag, and I was like, what would have happened if Matt had loosed the arrow? And I put the bag out, and I measured it as like 35 yards. I was like, oh man, that's walk back out there, walk it back way into the woods to 45 yards, go all the way up the stairs and my little whatever it's called in the back. I cock the arrow there, I shoot it, and I hit dirt. Yeah. I was like, I'm not even close. Yeah. So I'm figuring out like 20, 30, 40, 50 yards. Maybe it's closer to 50. So I get the 50 pin on it, and I get comfortable with that, and I figure it out, and I just start tagging the bullseye.
Was that this nice 6-pointer or in that same area?
So what happened, I got the bullseye in at 46 yards. Yeah. That's where the doe came in. November 10th or 11th, the golden time, I went back to that stand, and I was doing some rattling, and I heard some noise come in. I was like, what the heck is that? And then I looked over, and as a new hunter, I'd never seen
a rack deer
a buck just standing there ever in my entire life. I feel like my whole life I've seen does and unantlered deer. Mm-hmm. And this thing just walks out, and it had a huge body. Ended up dressing at 142 after it was dressed. And he came out, and he stopped at the same place as that doe at 46 yards. And I said, I know this shot. I know I can do it. And I loosed the arrow, and I thought I missed the deer. Mm-hmm. Because it's so far away, I didn't even see where I hit it. So the thing like just took off and just ran away.
But I do know that you're a good shot, because last year when I met up with you, I think you had already got that deer, right? Or was that after? Well, last year when I met up with you, we shot a little bit at the range, and I was way off. I hadn't picked up a bow in a while, and you were there. You had already released 50 arrows, and you were smashing them at 50 yards. I was really impressed with your shooting last
Thank
year.
You.
Yeah, and it inspired me to I got to practice more. So I know you're a really good shot. That's still a long shot, but hey, if you're confident in it, You're confident.
It was exactly 46 yards, and I had been practicing exactly 46 yards, and it was for a new hunter looking at this buck. I was like, holy cow, I have to do this. And I did it, and I can't believe I did it. And when I recovered the deer, I waited 30 minutes. I went back to the car and put all my stuff in there. I came back to see what did I do. And the entry point was perfect. It was exactly where I aimed. And when I flipped the deer over, the exit point was on level with the entry point.
Hear those bubbles. So it's a beautiful 6-pointer. And so just that's probably what hooked you for life, right? It's just seeing the buck for the first time, like close and while you're hunting. I mean, that hooked me way back in the day. First time you see a buck, it's like, oh my God, that's just majestic.
The only buck that I saw before that, I was at my Cub Scout spot, which is a hunting permission I secured while selling Cub Scout wreaths with my son.
Yep.
And I was up in this guy's backyard pretty much. And I lowered the bow, kind of on par with my turkey story about going to stand up. And there was a bunch of turkeys there.
Yep.
I had enough for the day. I lowered the bow down to the ground because it can get boring.
Yeah.
It gets boring before you know what can happen, and then you just stay glued there for hours and hours and hours. Dude. But anyway, I thought I was done. I lowered the bow to the ground, and I just heard crash, smash, bang. This doe just comes running through the trees. Like, you would think she's going to kill herself, smashing herself against a tree like crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck was that? And I'm just standing there watching everything.
Either a hunter pushed her or...
And then... another crash. It's another doe. Yeah. Another doe comes smashing through the trees. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I get out the grunt tube. I'm like, stop, trying to like talk to these deer. They didn't listen. And then this big buck came running through this guy's backyard, chasing those does. And I took that tow line with the bow on. I'm like, try to get the bow up there, try to grunt, try to rattle antlers. I'm like, what the heck? He was busy.
What time was it? Was it like, was there like 10 minutes of daylight left? Or?
Dude, you're going to kill me, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think, it must have been, an afternoon or an evening. Because
you were lowering it, ready to go. You're like, it's almost dark probably, right?
Yeah, but I could see. So I don't know what I was up to. It was my first year ever hunting.
No, I could see. And last year was my 20th year hunting, and I did the same thing, man. I think every hunter listening has lowered their bow. I'm not going to do it now, though. I'm just not. If I'm in for an evening hunt, no matter how long the sit's been or boring, and you haven't seen anything, I'm not doing it until it is illegal to shoot, and then I'm lowering the bow. Because last year the same thing happened to me. It was after a miss. I had been scouting this spot forever, and I had missed earlier in the year in this spot. Like I had missed like mid-October in this spot. And then this time it was November 6th or 7th, right? And activity's starting to heat up. I go back in there. The wind's good. And I move my stand location. And I'm still using my climber at that point. And, I'm in this new spot, only 50 yards from where I was before, where I missed that first buck in October. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm expecting something to come out of the swamp this way. And a deer came out of the swamp that way perfectly like I expected it to happen. And there are two paths he could have taken. One, which, because the trail kind of splits. There's some thick stuff. He can go towards me or kind of away from me. And I'm just hoping, please come towards me. Please make the split this way, because he would have been 30 yards broadside. Nice big buck. And he doesn't. He takes the other one. And I recklessly I'm like, well, I'm in panic mode at that point. I'm like, I want to get a shot off, and I, pull out my rangefinder and tick where I think he's going to walk, and I see like you, it was like 45 yards, and I'm like, if he steps, I see a little window. If he steps into that and stops, I will shoot. And he stepped into it and stopped, and I shot. I didn't know if I hit it or not, and I'm just sitting in my stand, waiting for. I was going to wait for it to get dark and walk down and look, because I know it's a hot spot. There were so many bucks in that area. I'm like, I'm going to sit here and wait. Maybe he'll come back. If I didn't hit him, maybe something else will come through. So I'm sitting there waiting for it to get, to illegal light. And I was going to go check for blood with my flashlight. And I dropped my bow down. Probably 5 minutes left of legal light. I dropped my bow. I'm like, because I'm so anxious. I want to go see if there's blood over there too,
Yeah.
So that brought into it. But bow's hanging there. Like, as soon as it got to full suspension, just hanging at the bottom, I just started hearing crunching on my left. Like, not the same buck, different. Like, this buck was straight out in front of me. From to my left, behind me a little bit, I hear some crunching. I look over. There's another nice buck coming in. I can't tell how big he is. He might have been like this. He might have been like that one on the wall. I couldn't really tell. But
Pat's pointing to my antlers and saying that they're smaller. And then he's pointing to the one on the wall that he got, saying it's bigger. I mean, for the listeners at home.
It could have been either of them. Like,
oh, okay.
But, I could see high, and I could see, the white tines. And there was 5 minutes left of shooting light. And I was like, God damn it. And he's just stopped in this one spot. And I'd pull it up real fast. And I was able to get it up, load an arrow in, and range finded it, and shot, and it went. I didn't know if I hit him either, but I took a shot on him. He was standing broadside inside, just making a scrape, because I went down and looked after, and he made a fresh scrape right there. But it's crazy. Like, with 5 minutes of legal shooting light, it was really hard to even put my pin on there. Again, both of those shots were bad. I'm not going to take those kind of shots this year. I will not take a shot like that. Like, I'm still new to bow hunting. I think you're 3 years into it. I'm like 4 years into bow hunting.
It's not easy.
And you learn on it. And those were two bad shots, and, I completely missed both of them. And didn't touch either of those deer, thank God, because if I would have injured one and taken a bad shot, it would have been, terrible. But
antlers make people do crazy things.
Yep, yeah.
You see them, you have a plan, then you see those antlers, and it's just like, I don't know. Should I make that quartering 2 shot?
So, but don't drop your, keep your bow.
Definitely.
Keep your bow until legal is over, and then drop it and get out of your stand. But you work too hard to mess something up like that. What if you did that and it was biggest buck of your life came in?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You go to your spot. Let's say it's October 28th. So we're approaching the rut.
Yep.
You got a weekend hunt going on. It's last light. You sit there. Nothing's happening. Past legal shooting time. You lower the bow down. You're getting ready to climb down, and then you hear a rustle, and it's about 40, 50 yards off.
Yep.
What do? You're going to sit there and wait till all's quiet, or are you getting down and getting the heck out of there?
I've been waiting. That happened to me a few times in the spot around that time. And I waited and waited, but eventually it's like, I don't know if that deer has crept away and is not around anymore, or if it's just been so still because it knows I'm up there, and I end up just getting down. I don't know. If I was for sure that it was like the big buck that I'm on, then you wait until, just wait an hour. But it does get lonely and dark up in the tree, and you want to get out and get home and help your wife.
People are waiting for you.
Yeah, it's
like, where the heck is he?
Yeah, but yeah, I've been in that situation, and I try to wait for a little while, and sometimes they go off, and even if they get a far enough away distance, you can still hear them, and then they can still hear you. You take your time getting down. I don't think it spooks them. They never blow at me that late.
I mean, it's common sense since everybody knows the deer have more activity at sunset. So it's common sense. You're sitting there, it gets dark, you're going to see them start walking around.
Yeah.
But I was shocked. The first year I was hunting, I brought my climber up, and I was on a logging trail, and I'm sitting there, and I thought, oh, this would be great if you it was all brushed in and everything, the logging trail. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting right on it, and I hear this rustling like after legal shooting time, and they're just right there, like right at the bottom of the tree. So I'm sitting there for like an hour, like, oh, this is my hot spot. I don't want to blow it. I would never go back to that spot now, because I just don't think it's a great spot. But at that time, I was like, this is the best spot I have.
That's what happened. That same spot I was just talking about. I missed a buck in there at last light in mid-October. And then I went up to Vermont, and my buddy Chris shot a 6-pointer looked just like that in Vermont, almost like the same rack. Nice one up in Vermont. And then Scotland got a 6-pointer up there too. And then I came back, and I went back to that spot early November, and that's when I missed those 2 bucks too. But I had moved my stand because those deer at last light they were meandering out. A half hour before last light, I saw them, and I saw where they were coming from out of the swamp, and they just slowly meandered out of there, and they were eating acorns that way. So I was like, well, next time I come in here, I'm going to get closer to that swamp, because they were there last light, but when it was completely perfect light, half hour before that, they were in spots where if I had a stand, I would have been able to shoot them. So I moved my stand to there, the next time. And that's when still that first buck came in perfectly, like a half hour before, last light as well. It was like right at sunset, that buck came out. The first one that I missed, that was at 45 yards. So that plan worked. He did come out of the swamp about the same time as that other buck did, and there was a doe there too. I passed the doe that first time. So it worked, but then that other buck came right at last light again from my left. So I know this spot is like a nice evening spot. You know? They're in that swamp bedded down during the day. They come out of the edge of the swamp at night.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
As a new hunter, it's hard to find those spots where you're sitting. Well, it's hard to find any spot where a buck is walking around.
Yep.
But you were able to find a spot which has to be reasonably close to some bedding area, because the deer must be sitting there during the day probably, and then towards the evening gets up and starts walking around.
Yep.
My first year hunting, I went to there's a lot of deer there. They're crawling around everywhere. There's swamp, there's woods. And I'm just walking around, just kind of looking in the snow for deer tracks for the next season.
Yeah.
So I end up finding this one spot, which is kind of at a, not a creek, but like some little stream coming down the hill. And it's all this big kind of saddle funnel area. And I see a bunch of trails, like 10 trails intersecting. And I'm like, wow, there's so many deer here. And I did a couple of evening sits there where I got there at a nice time, like 2 o'clock, and then went there to last light. No deer ever walked through there. I think it was too close to some human walking trails, and I think I just might not have been near bedding at all. So how do you, you find good spots? How do you determine like where to set up, where you're going to see a buck in the evening?
Well, one thing I'll say about that is, so this is something I learned years ago, is that low spots and wet spots and low spots, you can see a bunch of trails and tracks in there, and it might look fresh, but it's going to look just as fresh. Those could be 2-month-old tracks in the mud, and it's going to look the same. So low spots hold all that sign for a long time. So any low spot you go to, it's going to look like, man, deer are traveling through here all the time. It's just mud, and it's from the spring all the way to the end of the summer, you're going to see that same track there, and it's not going to look any different.
Oh, because that's what I hunt now. Because when I go to those low spots, I'm like, wow, look at all this sign. This is great.
You didn't have a camera. You didn't put a camera on there, did you? You got to put a camera there. Put a couple cameras there, and where you think the deer are coming in and out of. Put your So to get back to that, this particular spot where I hunted, where I saw all the bucks, and I killed that buck in that same stand, where I missed 3 bucks earlier in the year. I killed him, and then the very next day, my giant 9-pointer came by from that same stand too. So this is it's a buck hot zone. But I only figured that out by putting so many cameras up. I started out with 5 in a really small area. Within 3 acres or so, I put 5 different cameras up on trails, on scrapes, and in feed. And you just put 5 up, and you'll move one. You'll be like, oh, well, these 3 were getting a bunch on, and these 2 were really sparse. So you take those 2 that were sparse and you move them somewhere else and experiment with them and keep those 3 up that you were getting a lot of action on. And then eventually, you can shrink down from 5 and just keep 3 in that area and use those 2. Once you know like the highest point, your 3 main points that you want to like target, take those other 2 cameras and put them somewhere else. Put them in a spot somewhere else. But once this one camera had so much traffic on it, on a scrape, I was like, all right, every camera in this particular patch of woods is going to go on a scrape, because bucks were hammering it. And I had, I think, 12 or 13 different bucks in that one area, and all different age classes and stuff. But I knew, and I was like, well, this is where I'm gonna hang a stand in here. And then I learned something new every time I went there. The first time, like I said, I was too far away, and those deer were coming in at last light, and I knew to creep up closer to the edge of the swamp. And then you just you learn every single time you go in. And I can't wait to see that. This year I was starting to put cameras last year in that spot in June. maybe even May, I had some cameras up in there. I'm not going to put cameras in there this year until like September or late August. I'll go in and put them in. But now I know that spot because it's a small section of a big area. You know, I talk about it all the time. One thing that is awesome about hunting is that there's so many different ways that you can hunt. You can always keep your hunt fresh by using different weapons or hunting in different seasons. Some state has an early season, some have a late season. You can hunt a buck here and a doe there and a Saturday here and a Sunday there. Well, one of the easiest ways to change up your hunt, if you haven't got into muzzleloader hunting yet, muzzleloader is a great way to extend your season. In New Hampshire, it's early, before the rifle season, before the bow season. In Vermont, it's late, it's at the end. But muzzleloader hunting is awesome. And so I'm super excited to announce a partnership with Woodman Arms muzzleloader. This muzzleloader actually shoots like a rifle too. And the coolest part about Woodman Arms is they recommend that you not clean your gun. You don't need to clean this thing. If you're using Blackhorn 209 powder, you don't need to clean it. Yeah. Now muzzleloaders are the messiest guns out there. You're shooting powder that's either loosely packed or in a pellet, and just imagine lighting that thing on fire in there. It's an extremely messy thing, but with the Woodman Arms, the way they build it, you don't need to clean that muzzleloader. That's like number one selling point in the world. But once you hold this thing, it feels like a rifle. It just feels right in your hands. It's got a hammerless action, so there's absolutely no hammer on the gun. It's got a crossbolt safety. It feels like you're carrying your 7600 through the woods. I'm extremely excited about this partnership. They're making me a gun right now. Throughout the summer as I'm shooting it and into the fall and getting ready, I'll report back on how it shoots, but you don't have to look any further than all the reviews and all the really great hunters in the Northeast and across the country. Really, they're selling all over the country because they're the best muzzleloader in the country. Look at what everybody else is saying about this gun. That's enough for me to endorse it without ever shooting one, but I can't wait to shoot one and follow up with you guys and tell you how it is this summer, this fall. For now, go to woodmanarms.com. Check them out. You can build your own custom gun right there. Call Timmy Bolduc, who was on this podcast and is a good friend of mine, and he'll tell you anything that you need to know about the gun. Woodman Arms, America's most accurate and dependable muzzleloader on the market, handcrafted in New Hampshire. Go to woodmanarms.com and start building your gun today.
So what about when you put a camera, we were talking before we started here about minerals. Last year I put down some minerals at a site. I put a camera on it, and this monster of a deer came in, and he started coming in. It was mid-September, and I forget what time it got dark, but he was coming in an hour before dark. And I was just like, oh my God, if he keeps coming here, that was the video that I sent you today. Yep. And what I'm wondering is,
it's a beautiful buck.
Was he there because he wanted to be there, or was he there because I put the minerals there? And then once hunting season starts, you're not allowed to use the minerals. And then so basically you train him to look for those minerals. As soon as the minerals go away, is he going to go away?
Well, you never know until you should be going to that same area, doing the same thing you did last year, and seeing if it repeats. That's what's so cool, that I'm finding about, hunting the same spots and getting so many cameras out. I can see and try to repeat what I did last year now and see if those same bucks are going to the same places. And you can start experimenting, right? Like, go back and put mineral in one spot and then put a camera not too far away from it, and don't put your mineral in your corn or whatever you're doing there in the summer. And it's just a long-term experiment, man. And every year you pick up more data.
Yeah, I'm excited to get some cameras. I still have like 5 or 6 cameras out there, and this year I got some cell cameras as well. So I have one out there. It's not that active yet, and I have 2 more, and we were talking a little bit before about what to do with those. Am I going to put those on that easy-to-access spot? So if I see a buck right in the area, like I was notified by a homeowner last year that there was a huge buck there, and I ended up having an amazing experience with this buck. I didn't shoot it. I didn't shoot at it, but we had a great interaction. And so the question is, would you set up the cell camera right off the road so you know when he's in there and you can just hop right into your spot real quick? Or would it be better to save your cell cameras for those remote, ridiculous adventure spots that you might kayak into one time, November 6th to 16th?
Definitely those spots are good places for a cell cam, because you can't get in there and out easily. So yeah, definitely put them in remote spots. And I have one way out in the swamp on an island. And I still haven't gone back because it is so remote. I was like, I'll go back when it's ice and I can walk out there easy. And shit happens, and I didn't go out, in February, January. When
Is there batteries in it?
Yeah.
So it's still working.
Well, I don't know. I canceled my service. I'm going to turn it back on probably in August or September.
What brand is it?
Moultrie.
So can you suspend it and then turn it back on?
Yeah. And when it's, when you're not, the memory card still, if the batteries are still working, it's still taking pictures now anyway. I can pull it out when I go and retrieve it.
So what if the memory card's full? Does it still work?
No, it just won't take anything. But one thing, last year when I went into that spot that we're talking about, my old buck nest, I started putting cameras in there in June. Those cameras did not get hardly. I mean, they were getting 8 videos a month. 8 videos a month, June, July, even August. It was very sparse. So I was like, well, maybe this isn't that great of a spot at that point. And then as soon as mid-September came around, I went in there to check cameras. I was getting way more action. And then I started just on the way in, I saw so many scrapes, fresh scrapes opening up. So I just moved my cameras because in June, this year I know you can see scrapes in June. You can see them in May. You still see them. It's harder when the growth comes up and
they're there
stuff
now.
Covers it, but you can see them.
And they're fresh.
Yeah, and I wasn't looking for it last year in June. I was just putting it where I thought a deer would walk by. But when I went in there in September, you see all the scrapes. I moved the cameras around and, started seeing, I noticed these are all oak trees too. And it was a really good acorn year last year. So this was just an acorn knob on the edge of a really big swamp. And it's to me, now I know that's a type of thing that can attract. In a good acorn year, you find an acorn knob or a flat on the edge of a swamp, they're going to be bedding in that swamp. They're not bedding in the middle of the acorns. They're bedding in the swamp, and they're going to come out at night and eat the acorns and, go through the hardwoods and do all the stuff and chase shit around and fight in the hardwoods. So last year was the first time I really put all that together. I know they're bedding in there. I know they're coming out here to eat. Now I just got to find where they're coming out and set up there in the evening. And that's what I did, and it worked out last year.
I think that's one of the great things about hunting is that it's a puzzle, but the land that you go over is completely different than the land that I go over, even though we only live 10 minutes apart from each other.
Yeah.
It's amazing that over years and years and years, you can dial into your spots and you can learn the different terrain and what deer are up to.
Yep.
And I'm doing the same thing 10 minutes away, but all of my knowledge is completely different because I've been hunting these shallow creek areas, and I think they're beautiful, and I love to be on them, and I love to watch deer walk through them. It's amazing. All those grasslands, I feel like it's the videos on YouTube, like in North Dakota or something.
It's really nice. But I'll tell you, I learned that. It was 2014 when I first started hunting a ton more. I would take a full week off and go up to my Vermont camp and hunt 10 days straight. The 2 weekends on each side. It was 9 days straight, and I would hunt the first 9 days of Vermont season. First time I did that was in 2014, and I went up there and I sat at the real bottom of this draw. This draw that goes pretty high up, and it's and I was like, well, something's gonna walk down that draw. I'm at the bottom of it. And, when I first started sitting there, I was seeing tons of deer. I was in Vermont, you see 4 or 5 deer in a sit. That's a lot. And I was seeing that the first 3 or 4 times I sat there. No bucks, but I was seeing deer from all different ways in the bottom of that draw. And then, I went back to camp and I was telling my uncle about it, and he was much more experienced than me too. And and I was telling him about all the sign that I see there too. And he's the one that told me, well, all that sign sits there and stays there. You can even see a track from the year before in a nice, muddy bottom of a draw, Snow will get over it, it'll freeze over, and then the spring it'll thaw. But if it's the right kind of, dirt, you can be seeing a year-old track there. So be careful in those low spots because you can see really old sign. And also I learned that your scent stays down in those draws a lot. So the first 3 sits, I saw a lot of deer.
Yep.
I kept going back there and never saw deer again.
Yeah, it doesn't wash away.
It stays down and it hangs in there, and they're like, so they learn to avoid it after a while. So if you're going to sit in a low spot, save it for the day, a cold front or something, that something might be moving through there.
That's a good idea. And it's always important to have so many spots as well. And I struggle with that as well because I'm always wondering, is it better to spend more time in a few spots that are awesome so you could dial in that spot? And it's kind of like scouting all year and learning that spot like we just talked about. You're learning your land. I'm learning the land that I like to hunt too. Or would it be better to scout in September or October and find 12 spots with hot sign and do 12 different hunts?
Yeah.
Do your rutcation in November and just do these sits where you just go to every different town, every different spot, one day only, and see what happens.
Well, I mean, a lot goes into that. If you have fresh, if you got some cell cameras in different spots, then you would change. You can never go into the season saying I'm going to hunt 12 different spots, right? I know there's 12 hot locations. I'm going to go here, here, and then here. Like every day, it's going to change. That first
That's
day,
true.
you might see 2 really nice bucks out of range in your first spot, and then you're going to go back in there the next day, right? Or if the wind's right, whatever. Or you get a cell phone picture in one of your other ones, you're going to just go there.
I had a whole plan last year of all the 12 spots or whatever I was going to do, and I had it all organized. I know there's a scrape here, there's a rub here, found some poop over here. It was glorious.
Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, and then
Exactly.
and everything blows up.
I did get punched in the face because I stopped by this homeowner to ask him permission to hunt behind his house, and for some weird reason
he punched you in the face?
He said yes. And then no, he didn't punch me in the face. He said yes, which is like so bizarre because I'm not shy. I'm in sales and people say no all day.
Yeah.
So I don't care.
You ain't afraid of rejection.
I will just knock on people's doors all day. And if they say no, I'm no better or worse off than before I started.
How many times did your wife reject you before she said yes?
That's confidential.
This episode is brought to you by Heron Hill Winery, the official winery of the Hunt Suburbia podcast. Go to www.heronhill.com and use code HS5 for an additional 5% off at checkout. Now, they already have some great volume discounts on there. If you buy 3 bottles, you're going to get 5% off. If you buy 6 bottles, you get 10% off. If you buy 12, you're going to get 15% off. So if you add the 5% extra you get from using code HS5, you get 20% off plus free shipping for a case. HS5 is for first-time buyers. If you're a repeat buyer, you've supported in the past, just get on there and use those volume discounts. Get the wine delivered right to your door. Enjoy a nice glass of wine while you listen to this podcast. There's a lot of great information. And support us. Support the sponsors. We really appreciate it. HeronHill.com. Use code HS5 for an additional 5% or just enjoy their volume discounts. All right, just want to take a quick break and remind everybody that's listening, please, if you haven't, go on to iTunes or the podcast app, anywhere that you can leave a review on the podcast. iTunes and the Apple Podcast app are the best places to do so because it really helps in the rankings. Go in there, leave a written review, tap on the 5-star rating. It's going to help us a lot in shooting up the rankings and getting this podcast out to more people, and I would really greatly appreciate that. Go and subscribe on our YouTube page if you haven't yet. It's Hunt Suburbia, youtube.com/Hunt Suburbia. Of course, follow us on all of our social medias. Continue to interact with us, and if you have any questions or anything you want to send me, shoot me an email at huntsuburbia@gmail.com.
But so anyway, I went to this homeowner's house. He gave me permission. And then I concocted my plan of all these great ideas I had. And at a certain point, his house is too tight. He's next to some other houses. He's kind of close to the road. It's like there's no parking. He doesn't want me to park at his house. He wants me to park across the street in these suburbs where all these people have kids running around and everything. So I texted him. I'm like, thank you so much for giving me permission. I just want to let you know, I'm not going to be hunting there this year. I have these other properties that I want to concentrate on. And he wrote me back. He's like, oh, that's too bad because I have a big buck in my yard right now. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding?
And then
So I was literally at his house in like 4 minutes. I'm like, I almost dropped the phone. I got in the car
and then he punched you in the face.
There is no punching in this story.
Oh, it was metaphorical. Okay.
But so I went and I was walking behind his house because I'd never been back there before, and I jumped this huge buck, and it was like you could hear it was not the little doe that I normally jump, when you're out there, or bump, whatever. And so I was like, oh wow, he's a good one. So I put a camera back there, and there was a little scrape there, and I checked the camera, and it was a pretty nice deer.
Yeah.
So I told the guy, I'm like, all right, it's on. So that was the getting punched in the face. My plans all went out the window.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the spot. I'm hunting this spot right now.
Yep.
So I hunted a couple times. I didn't see him, and I went back for a morning sit. I went there at like 4 a.m. It was completely dark. I parked the car in the burbs. I could wear the camo and everything in because it was dark. Coming out, I change out into civilian
you don't
clothes.
want to come out in a ghillie suit. People are going to be like, what the fuck is going on?
So I leave all my camo clothes and bow at the side of the road.
Yeah.
I change into civilian clothes. I go up to my suburban hatchback and, swing by. I throw everything in the back of the car and I head home. But anyway, that morning I got into the woods. I had all my saddle stuff.
Have you put a deer in your hatchback?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. It fits, but when you put it in reverse, the nose hits your elbow a little bit. It's tight, literally. But so yeah, I was going in there like 4 a.m. and I started to hear these like rustle of the leaves and everything. So I just wanted to sit still because I didn't want to disturb this creature, whatever it was. It started getting louder and louder, and pretty soon I was like, is this a horse or a bear? What the heck is this thing? It was huge, and it rounded the corner, and it was the buck that I was chasing, and it was completely dark.
You were on the ground?
I was it was completely dark.
Yeah.
I couldn't see pins. It was illegal to shoot, and he got within probably 10 yards or closer to me.
Wow.
And he just stood there, and he put his head down, and I looked at the antlers, and it was like two pitchforks pointed.
Bigger than your 6.
Yeah, maybe bigger than that.
Oh, I'm sure bigger than that one.
Maybe the other one. So it was bigger. I had never seen a deer like that in person. And he was 10 yards, and I was standing there, and he was standing there, and we were just facing each other. It was an insane experience.
That's awesome.
And he stopped, but he put his head down, and the antlers went forward, and I just stood there for like 2 minutes, and I didn't know what he was going to do.
Like, oh man,
is he going to try to like gore me with the antlers? Or I didn't know what to do. Yeah. So I moved just a little bit, and then he snorted and ran away. I stayed in that tree. That was like 4 or 5 a.m. I stayed in that tree till noontime because I took a half day off of work. So I figured, well, half day is till noon, and then you can take lunch, right? So I stayed until noon, and it was like 11:30. A doe came screaming down the hill, and who was following the doe?
Nice.
That buck was coming back.
Yeah.
And he was like the headless horseman. He came right up to the creek and stopped. He couldn't cross the creek, Ichabod Crane. And so he just stopped there, and he like stayed in the bushes. He knew something was up. He knew because he saw me there 7 hours before. So it's like the danger zone,
Yeah.
And so he stood there for a bit, and the doe walked right in front of me. And I'm like, oh, she smells so sweet. Come on, please, come in. And he ended up going broadside 52 yards and just stood there.
Yeah.
And I took the bow. I put the 50-yard pin on it, but I hadn't practiced that shot, and I'm just not.
I bet you've been practicing 52 yards now.
Yeah, because I will be in that tree next year.
I was going to say, so you got permission again, so you'll go back there. And
I texted him today, and that's him right here.
Oh, come on. Alive? Come on. Yes? No? You got permission?
Uh-oh. Okay, well, he says, are you asking me now for hunting permission? Because the season's not until October. Well,
yes, sir. I'm asking you now.
What I was asking was, how do you think October might end up in your backyard? Because if you feel positive about it, may I put a camera there now?
Yes, that's what you need to ask him.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
But
well, so this is going to tie into a bunch of things that I wanted to wrap up real quick. Was so you were asking, do you go into the same stand over and over, or go to, if it's a hot sign, or you go to 12 different spots? So many people will say you can't blow up your stand. If you go in there every time, big bucks are going to know. And, I think that is true. But I think also if you're hunting more suburban, it's less true, because those deer are used to human scent all the time anyway. So I think the more suburban you are, the less you have to be worried about blowing up your spot by leaving human scent, because there's humans everywhere.
I feel like that 10-yard encounter would not have happened in the middle of the woods.
Probably not, yeah.
Because it would be like, he could be 100 yards away and smell something and
Yeah,
be like,
that,
what
that's
the
hardly
heck
that's
is
hardly
that?
ever here. Whereas when it's suburban, it's like, that's always around me.
Yeah.
So like this spot last year, I went in there so much. I overhunted the shit out of that place. And that's me still being I'm not a great hunter. I'm still learning bow hunting. I'm still learning suburban hunting. But I had so much sign in there, and every single time I went in, I was seeing deer, and I was seeing bucks, and I was passing on bucks. I had young bucks in front of me, and I was passing, and it felt great. I was like, man, I'm a real bow hunter now. I'm selecting and passing, and I'm waiting for a big one. And dude, every time I went in there, I saw bigger bucks. And I missed 3 bucks before I killed that one there. I think I saw 20 bucks from that stand throughout the year. Some of them were repeat bucks, but I did go in there quite a bit. I probably hunted that stand 15 to 20 times over this season. And even the day after I killed that buck, I went right back in there, because I left the stand in there because I had to drag him out. And it's a climber.
Was it a climber?
Yeah, so I went in. I was like, I'll hunt it. I might as well hunt it the morning, and then I'll take the climber out, midday. And, that day, my giant 9 came in behind me, but I couldn't get turned around without him, He had a little doe with him. And the little doe saw me turning around, and they spooked off. But I did have another chance again. But it was literally weird how every single time I went in there, the bucks were getting bigger. I don't know. I left so much scent in that area. I think it's a pretty big spot, but it's, it's on the end of a bunch of cul-de-sacs and stuff too. It's some suburban, but it's 400, 500 acres probably of woods. But
I think
it's still semi-suburban.
What time of year was it? November?
Yeah, it was November.
So I think during that time of year,
November 17th, I killed him, and November 18th, the big one came in. And
if you were showing me some pictures earlier from your summer area that has like lots of grass,
so that was
and
the
lots
other
of
thing.
leaves.
That was the other thing I was just going to tie up real quick. Is like, dude, that same spot where I sat all year and all the activities started in September and October, November. That's when the bucks started coming in, and they were very dead in June, May and June and July and August. It was super dead in there. It's true. Where they are in May, June, July, and August isn't necessarily where they're going to be. Sometimes it might get crossover, but it's not where they're going to be during hunting season. So,
my point was, for the summer area, they might have a core feeding area, and they just sit in there and they get fat and grow antlers for July and August.
Yep.
So if you had gone in there and stunk it up a couple times, they might know something's there because they're there in the same spot every 2 or 3 days.
You mean that small core area in the summer?
Yeah,
so
possibly.
That's weird, because last year I couldn't keep myself out of that spot. It's a very small
and
core
it was still busy
area near my house. I went in every 7 days to check my camera.
Yeah,
it stayed the same.
Oh, okay.
But I think that's because it's suburban.
I was just going to say,
it's very suburban.
To me, it makes sense if you find a hot spot for the rut or for breeding season in November that you can sit it multiple times, because you're not going to see the same buck every single day.
No.
And if you put a camera there, you could see a series of bucks just running through, just checking doe areas, scrapes, and seeing what's going on.
Yep.
And they could be running for miles at that time.
And I think it all does depend on your access too. This place just has pretty sweet access. It's like mid-range walk-in. You're not there in 5 minutes, but you're there in like 15 to 20. So it's far enough off the beaten path, and I'm walking through only hardwoods to get there. Well, actually, that's not too good, because I go in the morning and the deer are still in the hardwoods a lot. But the big bucks, probably already back to bed. But it just seems like, for whatever reason, it's pretty sweet access. I go take the same trail into that spot every time, and always seeing deer in the morning and in the evening there. It's just been a really awesome spot.
So what's the plan for you for this year? Are you
Well, I always want to keep branching out, You find, like, now that I know that spot and I've got it down pretty good, I'm not going to spend a lot of time scouting it early. So that's how this year early, I got 5 cameras out now. I put them out May 11th. I put 5 cams out. One in my little summer spot where I know these deer are hanging out and growing. And I've already got 5 or 6 bucks on that one. And then 4 in a new spot, in 4 different new spots. I put 4 where I want to branch out. Like, always just keep expanding because you never know what's going to happen to your spot.
Oh, yeah.
It could be sold off actually, none of them are private. So it could be sold off or something can happen or somebody can come in and, find that spot, whatever. So always branch out, have a backup. And so I went and, put these cameras out in deeper woods, like big woods. And, not so much suburban. I wanted to find the biggest patch of woods you can find within an hour away. And I had been there before and seen sign, and I've always wanted to put cameras up. So I did that in May and dropped some little bit of mineral there, some corn. And so today I was like, let me go check them. It was a pretty cool morning, first cool morning for a while. So I was like, it's a good time to go check cameras. Plus you're coming and maybe we'll have something to talk about. And I have the biggest buck I've ever had on the camera in my life on this camera. I'm extremely excited about it. He's bigger than the buck on the wall right now, and it's June. The last pictures were taken last night, videos, and he's got a million little gnarly bulbs coming out of his base, and he's already got 10 points, and he's going to be a monster. So it's going to be hard. So now that throws a wrench into everything too, because I was going to kind of stay close and hunt what I know and hunt my my spots that I've honed in on, and I still will do that. But now I'm not going to be able to think of anything other than this buck.
So I struggle with a couple things when I'm trying to make my plan for what I want to do. Are we on a timer?
Yeah, we've gone an hour so far, but there's no time limit.
Do you have to cut at a certain time?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. So
I just got to keep checking it because I was freaking interviewing Timmy Bolduc and Mark Woodman, and we had a great conversation going about how they were hunting with the Benoits. And Mark Woodman was he filmed the Benoits. Do you know who the Benoits are, by the way? You probably don't.
No.
Yeah, so you got into hunting late, but they're legendary trackers from Vermont. Larry Benoit was he was the father, and he was taught by his Indian ancestors how to track. I think Larry was at least half Native American. I think his parents, one of his parents were full. I'll figure that out. Don't quote me on that, but he's got Native American in him. The whole family does. He learned how to track. In the 70s, he was on the front of Sportsfield magazine. Is Larry Benoit the best hunter and deer hunter in America? And he became kind of the first celebrity hunter. And he was from Vermont, which is cool because I'm from Vermont. And that's Vermont's got such a good hunting heritage. And everybody was like, man, Larry Benoit, look up to him and you want to learn how to track. And he has, he had 4 sons. One of them has passed since. And they are all extremely amazing hunters. They kill over 200-pound deer every year, multiples. They don't shoot anything under 200 pounds, and they only track. But anyway, they're legends. And I was interviewing Mark Woodman about it because he followed Lanny Benoit for 3 years as his cameraman. He was telling some awesome stories.
Wow.
And I looked down, and the freaking memory card had run out. So I always look down now to make sure that the memory card hasn't run out yet, because we had I missed 30 minutes of amazing stories because I didn't check.
Oh my God.
I'm so pissed.
So what's the gigabytes on your card?
16 gigs, but I had
Can't you just up it to 64?
This thing only takes a certain size. I think it might only take 16 gigs. But man. I was stupid because I had 20 other podcasts on it that I didn't delete yet that were already on my computer. I just hadn't cleaned it up.
Oh, you reminded me. The Reveal X by Tacticam. It has a loop feature.
Yep.
So when it's done taking pictures and you fill up your entire card, it starts writing over itself.
That's kind of cool.
So it never stops. You could have it out there.
So it goes back to the first picture and writes over that?
Yeah. It's
That's
like those dash cams that'll record 3 hours of film, and then it keeps recording over itself. So
I like that.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's a great feature. And if you have the solar
Especially
panel,
if you put out cams early where it's You want to see the pictures later in the season anyway,
well,
as opposed to the early velvet.
If you're in an open area and you have the rechargeable lithium battery solar panel,
Yeah.
supposedly that has a full battery in it, and you put the batteries in the camera. It draws on the solar battery first, and then uses the lithium batteries you put inside as like a backup. Mm-hmm. So every time the sun hits it, hopefully that would invigorate it and give it a little bit of juice. I don't know how long
you should be able to put in like 3 different memory cards too, where it fills up one and then fills up one and then goes to the next one, and then imagine having 3 memory card slots so you can just be like, I'm gonna leave this shit here for 2 years. Solar panel, you got all kinds of memory, and then go in like 2 years later.
But why do you need that if you could use a 64 gigabyte memory card, and if it's a cell cam and you're getting all the photos anyway on your phone?
Yeah, if
you don't need the card.
If it's a cell cam, you don't need
the card is kind of It has the HD image on the card.
Oh you're right. Yeah, for some reason I was thinking it's not a cell cam. Yeah, you're getting all the pictures to you.
I don't need like a portrait, that's you could publish in a magazine. I just want to see blurry antlers, and I'm there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I was gonna say earlier too, because I'm not putting any of my cell cams out until later, and last year I put them up I think in July or August, and I interviewed Jake Bennett, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna put these out for another few weeks, or a month, because they do charge every, I don't know if Reveal is the same way as Moultrie, but
it's $5 a month
every month. Yeah, but then I had like 6 cameras, so it's like $7 a month for each one on Moultrie, and it adds up. It's like 42. It's another cell phone bill almost.
Yeah.
So I just run them from this year. It's going to be from September until January probably.
They're new toys, so I was like anxious to get them in the field.
Yeah, they're so fun.
I like getting my updates every day of the swishing grass with no deer in it. It's the wind is blowing again.
Can you change the sensitivity settings from your phone?
I can, but I'm nervous I'm going to miss something.
No. If you're getting grass all the time, change it to the next sensitivity. You're not going to miss a deer. A big deer coming through, you don't miss that.
I have $250 a month. I'm getting like 3 swishing grasses at noontime every day.
So that's not a big
I can afford it. It's okay.
I got the unlimited plan too, so I think.
Oh.
So.
That's sweet.
But it was I think it was only $7, per camera.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So it wasn't bad, but yeah, man. What's your plan this year now? So you've got that one camera up, and that's in a spot that you're familiar with, right? Are you going to be branching out into some new spots? And
yeah, so I realize this will be my 4th season.
Well, actually, pull up your other show and tell here. Yeah, because this was 2 years ago, and then this one here is last year. Right?
This is the bad guy from The Fugitive, the one-armed man.
Yeah.
Right. I don't. You were commenting about my memory, and when I shot this deer, it has 1 broken antler. I don't know if it had 2 antlers when I shot it or not.
Actually, I remember you saying that.
Because
you really do have a bad memory. I'm not making fun of it. It's just
I'm so it's such an intense experience for me as a new hunter, like someone who has never been in front of these animals. They're massive animals. You're taking a life. You're doing archery, which is extremely difficult. They have amazing ears. They have eyes, which are decent. And if you move, they're going to pick you off.
Oh, they're really good eyes. Yeah.
So it's like, for this particular deer, I rattled him in, I grunted, I called him in, and he walked directly to me, like 10 yards from me, straight down, and he was rocking forward and back. I'd never seen a deer do that. He was like not taking a step, but shifting forward, shifting back, shifting forward,
he was probably dropping his
back.
Head a little bit and going up like that.
Yeah, he was probably looking for the deer that was doing all that rattling and all the grunting.
Or he kind of knew if he's doing this.
Yeah, probably.
Then he looked and saw you up there. He saw something, and he
didn't. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking into the woods.
But he knew something was up, and they do that to get predators to move, because he's kind of pretending like he's putting his head down, and predators will move when a deer puts their head down. So they do that, and then they jolt up real quick.
That's why they stomp too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they'll pretend like they're feeding or putting their head down, and then they'll go up real quick to see if they catch anything moving in on them.
Yeah, and that was actually another good learning point for me is that I was in some cover and in some thick shrubs, but I was over everything. So I had some decent shooting lanes, but you couldn't see 30 yards into the woods because, every 20 yards there was some ground cover. So I do like to hunt those shallow creek bottoms, but if you make a noise and a deer steps out and looks, he can clearly see whether or not there's a deer right where you are. And even if you're in a saddle and hidden behind a tree, if you're making noise like a deer, then they can see there's no deer there. And so they're not going to walk in to see what's going on because they know something's wrong. So this deer did not know something was wrong because he couldn't see in there. So he kept moving forward. But then at one point he was kind of shifting forward, shifting back, shifting forward, shifting back.
You were on a tree or on the ground?
I was on a saddle up in a tree.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I have my pin right on the vitals there on the magic V. And I'm like just moving forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. And he stopped. And I shot, and I ended up just shooting the tree square in the middle. There was I think it was like an 8-inch or 10-inch tree, maybe 8 inches.
What do you think happened with that shot?
I think I was following the magic V.
Yeah.
And I think he stopped, and I think I shot. And he stopped behind the tree, but I was waiting for him to stop.
Oh, he was behind the tree, and you hit the tree.
Yeah. And that arrow, my Luminoc just exploded, and I could see it fly. It went like 20, 30 yards away, still lighting up, flying through the woods. It made like a crack, like a gunshot. I smacked that tree so hard. And the deer didn't flinch, but he kind of looked around like, what the heck is going on?
Isn't it kind of funny? Well, sometimes the craziest shit happens in the woods, and the deer don't do anything because it's so crazy. They don't. Yeah. They don't expect all that to happen, so they're just like, huh, what?
Yeah, because it was one noise only. It wasn't like a succession of noises or smells or whatever. It was just one crack.
Quick noise, then it's quiet, and they're like, what the hell?
But it was in his ear. His ear was on the tree. So I smacked that tree, and he just stood there. And then I'm like, oh, shoot. And I'm already freaking out anyway because I had some good opportunities of other bucks like that big one, and it just nothing worked out. And I had one crashing through the woods earlier in the season. It never stopped. And so this...
he looks like a very similar deer, right? Kind of. Probably the same age. And
yeah.
Yep.
So I was able to reach around the tree, and I had my quiver hanging from a stick or something. And I was able to get another arrow, knock the arrow, and the deer's still there at 10 yards the whole time. And I'm on a saddle, but behind a tree, the deer, for some reason, it doesn't register to them that there's a person there. Yeah. I'm moving around. He can see my butt. He can see everything. But the tree is
That's one of the benefits of a saddle here, man. I'm hoping to get into one this year.
I climbed up a tree, 20 yards up a tree with a doe 20 yards from me, looking at me. And she didn't blow. She didn't run away.
It's actually cool that was from a saddle, too. That makes the deer even cooler, right? It's your first saddle deer.
Yeah, I think it was. So the deer wanted to walk away at that point, knew something was wrong, and it was at an awkward angle facing me, and the deer put his smarts together and said, I'm going to walk away to exactly 20 yards and stop and present a broadside shot. And so he just stopped right there, and I was like, 20 yards. I definitely have this shot down. Yep. And bam, he was 6 yards. He was down for the count.
Awesome.
But when I recovered him, I was surprised to see there was only one antler. And then I tried to rewind the tape in my mind. Did he come in with one antler or two? And
it was 1.5. It was definitely, you can tell it was broke and snapped off somewhere there.
It was all dirty, like it was stuck in the dirt, but he was rolling around there anyway. So I don't know what happened. Yeah. I lost the buckle to my saddle that day, and this antler, I don't know if it was there in the moment, but that's what I ended up with.
It's a great deer and a great story.
Oh, it was great.
So this year, this buck walks by opening day. Either of them, are you shooting it? You still the same? Are you doing the same strategy this year? You gonna shoot one, no matter what it is, and then go for a big one, or it doesn't matter. Two of those come by.
My strategy last year, I was gonna get 2 big bucks because I'm so good.
You and everybody else.
I know I'm amazing. I'm an amazing person. So I knew I was gonna get 2 big ones. And so I passed on a few smaller ones early in the season, but they were much smaller than this. So One of them was just 2 spikes, and one of them was like a little forky.
Yeah.
But it was so like, I wouldn't be happy looking at those antlers because it's kind of like I want to see him grow up and see what he becomes. And supposedly I knew that I was going to get this amazing opportunity, which I had amazing experiences later in the season. But it does come to a certain point when you're like, you got to make the call. Like, all right, we're at a certain point in the season. We need to begin thinking about doe tags. How big is your freezer? Like how far are we going to stretch as far as antler standards go? So my plan this year, I think these are decent deer. If I see one like this, I'm going to take them early season.
Definitely, especially early. Yep.
I just don't want to have the feeling like it's like a underdeveloped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if 1.5 or 2.5 is developed, but these seem like.
No, look, I killed so many 1.5-year-old deer until last year. It was the first time I didn't.
These guys are like they got a chance to go to a college party. You know?
Yeah, they're either 1.5 or 2.5.
I don't know if they went all the way.
But this one, I think he had some really good potential. It's a great freaking deer, and you don't want to let him go around the suburbs. But if he went another year, I mean, he's a good start. If he was a 1.5-year-old, that's a beautiful, beautiful 1.5. He's got great genes.
So I would like to take a medium-sized or better deer early season.
Yep.
Or a doe, if it's a big doe. I passed on 20 or 25 does last year.
I'm shooting a doe early season this year. I passed so many, but this year I'm getting a doe in the freezer. I didn't get a doe last year.
But you need to make sure that it's big.
Yeah.
When you see it,
yeah, want a nice one.
It's got to be like a cow.
Yep.
Because it makes a huge difference. As a new hunter, I didn't understand. It's probably weird to you, but I didn't understand that some deer are much smaller than other deer.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you just think, you see them out there and you're like, oh, it's a deer.
And some small deer, if they don't have anybody with them, they look just as big,
They do.
You can definitely, like, if they're by themselves, and you don't have a ton of experience, it can look just like every other deer.
So I know, there's some people that say, I'd never shoot a fawn, I'd never do this. My second year hunting, I was early season, and I did have a fawn come in front of me. I was way up in the, I was in the climber I think it was the climber. And I shot it because I thought it was a full-size deer.
Yeah, same
Because
with
you're
me.
looking down at the angle, and I'm like, oh, that's a deer.
Yeah.
And then when I went to get it, I'm like, oh, shoot.
Same with me. 2 years ago, my first deer I ever shot with a bow was by itself, and I couldn't tell the difference. I was on the ground, and I shot it, walked up to it, and it was a button buck. I mean, he probably only weighed 60 pounds. So, it was my first deer with a bow. I felt accomplished that I killed a deer with a bow, but I hate seeing a button buck. I hate shooting
Mine was a buck too.
I hate shooting button bucks because you never know what they could have been, what their potential was, but you don't know. The only way you never shoot a button buck is don't shoot any small doe. If the doe, right? Because you think it's a doe, and once you can finally, once you spend enough time looking at enough deer, you'll be like, no, that thing's small. I'm not shooting it.
So one of the main reasons why I got into hunting was the food aspect of getting something that's outside the traditional food system, like the factory farming. You see all this bad stuff about traditional farming methods or modern farming methods. And so filling the freezer was super important. And when I went to pick up the box from this buck, which was 142 pounds dressed, I think the box was like 60 pounds of meat. And that was amazing. Then when I went to get the box of this fawn that I shot, it was super disappointing.
It's like 20 pounds.
And it was the same price as the buck.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I spent $120 cleaning this.
But it is a lot more tender.
It's nice. Everything was nice, but
it's not much.
I want 2 big deer a year. I don't have a chest freezer. I just have that little kitchen freezer.
You gotta get a chest freezer.
Not yet.
You gotta. Well,
my wife has big plans.
Force yourself into it.
My wife has big plans for real estate, so she's like looking
for another house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's fancy. She's from Paris.
Hey, Paris.
Oh my God! So she wants
those foreign wives. They want big houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's fancy.
Because
She
it's
likes
like
her
the
fancy
American
stuff.
dream, you know? They're like, I want the American dream.
Yeah. I want the American
I do
dream
too, for sure.
but,
Yeah.
You know, I want the 40 acres, half of it ag, and a little
wish.
cabin
I wish.
on a creek or.
But you're so right about the food, though. We've recently been looking a lot more at the foods that we're eating just because we've had some family health issues and people getting some really bad diseases that you can relate back to diet, you know? And my dad, my aunts and uncles, and they never got sick. They didn't get any of these diseases because they grew up, you know, my grandmother, their mom, you know, cooked everything from scratch. They had a big garden. All their vegetables came from their own garden. They knew where it came from. Their meat was deer and fish and all that stuff. And they ate, you know, they knew where all their food came from. And none of them have ever had a major health problem. None of them. And they're, you know, my dad is 75 or 75. I don't know. Dad, if you're hearing this, 75 probably. And my grandmother's still alive. She's 102. She's never had any illness. And she is sharp as a tack at 102. So it really does go back to just what you're putting in your body. It seems so simple, but until you have like a scare in your family or somebody really close to you, you won't make that change. You know, you can always just say, well, you know, I'm gonna have a bag of chips. I'm gonna, you know, have a burger at McDonald's every once in a while. But dude, all that stuff really is just trying to kill you. And if you're going out and hunting deer and you're bringing home meat from a deer, that's the best meat you can have, the best meat you can find anywhere. You go out and catch a fish, best meat you can find anywhere. You know, if it's in a lake or something, watch out for the mercury levels and stuff. But if you're going out into the ocean, you know, all that stuff you can catch and bring home and the stuff you can grow in your backyard, that is the key to living a healthy and long life. And we've been taking a long look at that recently. And we've been eating so much better even just in the last few weeks. And we feel better. And dude, just anybody listening, make a change, because all that stuff that you're eating, those processed foods and all that stuff, that's the reason these diseases are on the rise in the U.S. If you just look at it from generation to generation, with baby boomers, wasn't huge. Now you look at our generation, people who are 30, 40, you know, in that age range, people are getting some bad stuff, and it's ticking up, and it's all because of the really bad processed industrialized food that we're eating. So
I think processed and industrial food is wonderful if you have a country full of starving people that don't have enough food or dirty food or subject to blight or things like that.
Sure, then it's better than the alternative, but
And that's how
our farming
developed.
industry needs to stop with pesticides and all that crap. Even that, you know, even some of the vegetables that you're eating, really, like I would have never thought, like, why would I pay twice as much for an organic vegetable in the store? I would have never done that before, but now we're kind of like doing it, because even those vegetables that you think are good for you, you know, if they're sprayed with so much pesticides and stuff. My dad, I was on the phone with him today. He says, you know, my grandfather got Alzheimer's late in life, and he thinks that he got Alzheimer's because my grandfather's dad, my great-grandfather, he sprayed all of his stuff with pesticides in his garden that he grew. So my grandfather grew up eating vegetables and stuff from the garden, which you would think would be healthy, but because they were sprayed by pesticides, and my grandfather's two brothers both got Alzheimer's too. But nobody else ever got any diseases, but his, you know, you can pinpoint it to that family. He thinks it's from the pesticides. My dad wrote a thesis on it in college, and you know, all that stuff just sucks. And you won't think about it until something happens.
I think
And then you'll change your thinking.
I think the whole food system as it's set up served the purpose for how it developed in the time, but it's gotten a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
There's huge companies, there's tons of money, there's global supply chains where this Brazilian steak company and a Chinese chicken company, and you know, there's all these different companies just growing, killing, shipping, thawing, butchering, selling meat. And, you know, your strawberries could come from South America, and different things come from, your garlic is from China. You don't know what's in the food. And I think all the shipping of all the food takes away from the nutrition, the attractiveness of it, the taste. I like to try to eat seasonally, where in the wintertime, you should be eating stews or pickled vegetables or stuff like that, because that's kind of the normal way your body is supposed to work.
Yeah, you eat your reserves that you had, you know. Yeah, like my wife's from Kyrgyzstan, and they grew up with every inch of their property had crops on it. When they came here, like my in-laws that live here, and they saw that we have a beautiful backyard. It's all grass and front yard grass, and there's all kinds of plantable areas. They wanted to plant everything, and I was like, no, I want a nice grass backyard, and Olga wants a nice grass backyard. We want, the kids want to be able to play there and stuff and kick balls around, right? That's how America, looks at their lawns. Other places, Kyrgyzstan, every inch of your property you use to grow some type of a crop to feed your family, which is the more practical thing. We want to be able to throw the ball in our backyard with our kids. Or just look at grass and spend all this time growing grass, but it's just to look at. It's just a vanity. Where I really do think that we should start doing. Now, I'm not ready to commit to that right now. I still want to have a backyard, but it's just two different mindsets.
You're gonna have the EPO come by and say, "Pat, why is your lawn all corn? Wait, what are you doing back here?
Corn and clover.
You got all these mounts everywhere, and you got corn everywhere."
That's legal. If you got standing crop, you can grow standing crop.
Did you know that lawn seed 100 years ago had clover in it?
No, didn't know that.
It did. You would buy your packaged lawn seed.
My lawn is half clover,
Yeah, but now clover is bad. And
I
so
know.
you need to go to the Home Depot and buy Roundup and kill all the clover in your yard.
Well, it's only bad for the people who want to see the vanity of like a straight up carpet of grass with nothing in it, but it's actually great for bees. Bees are on the decline. All kinds of bees, but it's great for pollinating because those clovers sprout those little white flowers, and the bees are all over it. We hate bees because we're allergic to them and they can kill us, so we don't want the clover back there, but it is actually good for your lawn, good for the environment.
So my brother lives down in Pennsylvania, and when my mom went to go visit, she just made a comment like, everybody's lawn has all clover in it. Some people's lawn is entirely clover.
Yep.
So I was just kind of Googling clover and lawns in Pennsylvania, and I saw like the ingredients of these old lawn seeds from 100 years ago that it actually contained clover.
Yeah.
So I thought it's just interesting because my neighbor is like Mr. Home Depot lawn, where there is not one weed, blade of grass, whatever, out of place. He's there all the time spraying and manicuring. And
thing is, he's putting lots of chemicals into the soil.
It's too much.
And I'm guilty of it too. This spring I was spraying stuff and putting different pre-emergents down to keep the crabgrass out. And I was like, this was going to be the spring where I was going to take my lawn back because there was so much crabgrass and so much clover. But I mean, I worked pretty hard on that this spring, and today I went back out there and I was like, oh no, I see some crabgrass popping up. I thought I had fought it, but dude, at the end of the day, it's not worth all that money, all that time, all that effort.
That's the thing.
And you're also, if you putting that fertilizer and stuff in there, if it seeps down into the groundwater too much, you're not doing good for the environment over time. So
when I moved in, I saw my lawn and it got really hot that year, and I was like, I got to water this lawn, and I had an irrigation system. So I set it up on the timer because we're on water ban certain days, and I did it all the legally and got the water bill, and it was like $1,500 for a quarter. And I was like, you have to be, and the lawn did not look any better than any of the neighbors. So that was the last year I ever watered my lawn, and if it dies every year, I don't care. I have other stuff to do, and there's scouting to be done. There's fishing in the canal. There's everything that you can go out and have fun and enjoy your life. And being on my hands and knees with a thing of Roundup, breathing that in, it's not what I like to do.
No, I mean, I think if we're ever going to try to just get a full lawn of grass and none of those weeds, we're going to redo it all. Pull it all up and just resod it. And not mess with all the fertilizer and shit, Like, we do want it so that our kid can run around and we're not afraid about him getting stung by a yellow jacket, because if we're allergic, maybe he is. And
you haven't tested yet?
Not him, not yet. Can you go do that? We're thinking about I
don't know. Do you have a
we have been tested, and we're really allergic to yellow jackets and wasps. And I'm assuming he probably is a little bit too. But yeah, we want to go get him tested when he's old enough to do that.
I don't know if hunting listeners would care. Probably not. But since I'm here and we're talking about allergies, my son is allergic to milk, and we're on a desensitization program where he started with 1 drop of milk a day.
Yeah, yeah.
He's up to 4 drops, and eventually he'll be up to 1,200 drops a day.
If you do that with anything, your kids will not be alert. We started giving our kid peanut butter, little bits of it, young, and, shellfish and all this stuff that people are getting allergic to later in life now. If you start exposing them to it, young and bigger quantities, it's just, yeah.
And this is all done at a doctor's office, not at home.
Do it. You can do it at home.
We're not doing drops. Do not do it at home.
But yeah, no one's really supposed to drink milk. You're only supposed to drink your own milk. You're not supposed to drink. It's kind of weird that we drink other species' milk. If you think about it, we're the only animal that does that.
I'm kind of like the factory farming. It served its purpose. And I think with the milk, I think certain cultures survived because of cow's milk. So I think it exists for a reason. There's a reason why we drink it, is to survive.
Yeah, yeah. I love milk, but I'm not going to give it up completely. But yeah, we're thinking about not even giving our son milk. Once he gets past he's already past breast milk, but once he gets past the formula part,
it's a big trend. And I just did a turkey hunt up in upstate New York by the Chobani plant.
Yeah.
And, they saved a lot of farms up there by opening that Chobani plant. But there's really tens of millions of people that used to drink a lot of milk. They don't drink milk anymore. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of those farms are going up for sale.
Well, the biggest one in my hometown, Thomas Dairy. They're known all around New England, and they made amazing milk. A huge dairy farm right in Rutland, Vermont. They sold their entire. They've been selling off pieces of land for the last few years. 50 to 60 acres at a time here and there, and they finally, COVID did them in finally. But I'm assuming the trend was already going down on milk anyway. For milk products. But yeah, they sold. It was huge news. Huge news. Well, in Rutland, Vermont, it was huge. But yeah,
I think as hunters, like that ag land, that farmland is so amazing and so precious. I just don't want to see it all go, but it is the wave of the future. Like, land has a value, and if it's valuable to produce milk, then you can have a block of 400 acres to graze cows on, and it's valuable.
The whole thing is the highest and best use in real estate. I was studying to get my real estate license during COVID. I was like, I might as well do it. I never took the test, but I did all the studying. And you want, in real estate, whatever it is, a piece of land or a house or a lot on the corner of a highway, it is your obligation as a realtor representing whoever wants to buy it or sell it to find its highest and best use. So if in the 50s, this Thomas Dairy spot was its highest and best use was as a dairy farm, that's why they do it. Now, a lot of dairy farms in Vermont are converting to CBD farming. A lot of people growing CBD and hemp plants. And you see a lot of them have already converted over to that. That might be an industry that's going to boom and then fall back down, the CBD industry. But that's the highest and best use right now for a lot of those farms.
It's true, but if the highest and best use of a 400-acre farm is to divide it up into 400 one-acre house plots, it's sad to see something so beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. I hate that part. I hate that.
There was one property that I hunted in New York, and I stopped by the homeowner's name was Buster. He was 90 years old. He lived at the end of the street. And I was driving around. I saw some turkeys, and I was hunting with my son because he did the youth season in New York. And I saw those turkeys, or if it's a problem, I can call them deer. I saw those deer, and I was like, man, I really want to shoot those deer with my son. So I was like, what am I going to do? So I turned around and I went to the road, and there was this kind of janky woman with a cigarette on her porch with her coffee. She was twitching and everything. It's like, you're in the farm country here, And
that was Beatrice.
I asked her, I'm like, hey, who owns that land over there? And she's like, nobody lives there. This woman used to live there, and it was Buster's daughter. And so it's the whole story. I went and got the permission. I went to the top of the property, and the daughter used to live there, had a memorial stone there because she passed away. And I was just standing there, and I was like at the top of a hill overlooking 30 hills that were just like this one. It was all rolling farmland. I was like, it is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
But these all used to be cow farms. So what could they possibly be in the future? They have to be divided up. These guys, Buster's 90 years old. He's not going to be around forever.
Well, what were they like now? Were they still...
Abandoned. The guy was 90 and he has it all paid off. It's been in his family a while and
Yeah.
the daughter passed away and who knows what'll happen.
Yeah.
But I saw a bunch of farmland up by the McDonough area that was for sale as well. And for hunters, it's an amazing opportunity. There's a lot of people managing the land for deer. You see the QDMA signs all over the place.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of serious hunters out
Well,
there.
New York is a great place for deer. They've got every type of topographical feature that you would want, and they've got amazing farmland, and it's a great deer hunting state.
My son found a beautiful deadhead, his first shed. That was a very exciting moment. I walked right over it and didn't see it. And he's like, Dad, look at that.
That's
and It was
great.
like a big deadhead like this. It was
That's
awesome.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Did you guys bring it home?
We did, yeah.
Sweet.
It's in the back. It's got some beetles in it right now. So
Yeah.
try to keep the sun off the antlers, keep them brown and just kind of buried. And I dug it up a couple days ago and it's all full
Here
of beetles.
comes the sun, do. That
Yeah.
kind of beetle or no?
Oh, yeah, you're right. The beetles are in it.
The beetles
keep
are
the
in it.
sun off it.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm a thinker. I used to
You
be a
are.
rapper, so I'm a wordplay guy. You said, it's waiting for the sun. There's some beetles in it, and there it is.
Yeah. Were you really a rapper?
Yeah, I used to rap.
Why did you give up the dream?
It was never really a dream. It was just like kind of fun, you know. I started rapping, and then I heard myself, on a song, and people were like, "Is that you?" And seeing people's reaction, going, "That's not you," like that kind of motivated me to just keep doing it.
Yeah.
People didn't believe it.
Did you know I was a professional trumpet player for 5 years?
I think you told me that. Yeah, you told me that you were into music.
Yep. I played trumpet for 5 years. I graduated from University of Rochester in upstate New York. And then all my friends, they moved back home with their parents because they didn't have any money and they didn't have jobs. And I got this job offer to get paid
That's the life of a musician, dude.
$1,600 a month.
Dude, raking it in.
Yeah, on a cruise ship. And this cruise ship was christened in 1940 something by Queen Elizabeth II. It was
And it was to mop, right?
it was the premier
to swap,
Ocean
swab
Breeze.
the deck, or oh no, you got paid for the trumpet. Okay, yeah.
And I was playing trumpet. It did 2-day cruises, Fort Lauderdale to Bahamas. And so I basically lived in a steel cube.
That was the whole act. Is you just doing a trumpet? Like
I was in a band.
Okay, it was a full band. It wasn't like just you.
No.
And here comes Matt, the trumpet player, right? And that's what I was picturing, was just
They
you.
have some headliners.
So you were in
know,
like
you
an orchestra or something?
Yeah, we did production shows and, dance numbers and then jazz sets and stuff like
Cool.
that. You worked like 2 hours at night and then you had all day to goof off.
Yeah.
It was like the dream job.
That's pretty cool.
And I actually saved money because there was
You made more money than most people do as a musician.
maybe, but the great thing was there was no like outgoing money because the rent and the food was all paid for. So it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but over 6 months, you could actually save a decent chunk.
Yeah.
You can get ahead. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Well, that's like when I first started working at Spartan Race, and I was fresh out of college, and my boss said, "Hey, anybody can come live in Pittsfield, Vermont. Beautiful, gorgeous. You want to talk about being in a place where you go up on the top of a mountain or a hill and you look around and there's a bunch like it. Pittsfield, Vermont. You go there, and my God, gorgeous little town. 400 people live there. It's tiny, and in this nice little valley." And that's where Spartan Race headquarters started. And, he's like, "All right, all you college kids, I own, a lot of properties here, many houses, a lodge. Like, anybody who wants to come work for me, you live for free, no rent. I own the general store in town. You can go there and get whatever you want for free anytime. Just put it on the Spartan Race account." So it was like food and board completely free.
Yeah.
But everybody got paid the same $2,000 a month. But
Oh,
it was
great.
similar. It was like you get $2,000 a month. You're an independent contractor.
It's awesome.
But you live and work for free in a beautiful little place. And kids out of college, that was a dream. That was pretty fun.
I got a fishing story for you. Do we have time?
Yeah, let's go.
So I'm on the cruise ship, and we stopped in Norway. And my buddy, he was from the UK, and he had done some saltwater fishing, and I never did that, but he had 2 rods. So he had this gear. and he wanted to catch some mackerel to chunk them up and try to get something bigger. So he had this gear that had, I don't know what it's called, but there's a bunch of hooks that they're off the line, kind of looks like tree branches, like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And, you throw that in there once, you don't get anything. You throw it again, you get a bite, and then a bite, and then a bite, and then a bite, and you pull it up, and you got like 10 mackerel smacking around on that line. So we did that. We chunked up the mackerel, and he put his line in, and he's like, keep getting the mackerel, because the Filipinos like them. So we kept casting out, and we got tons of mackerel. We got 2 garbage bags full of these mackerel. And as we're going there, we have 2 of the ship's crew towels. They were these green, pilly, disgusting towels for the crew, not the Turkish white, wonderful for the passengers. So we had these towels, and we kept wiping our hands, and we ended up bringing all those mackerel to the Filipinos, and they were so grateful.
Did the Filipinos like work on the boat?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They like run the boat.
Yeah.
If there's like 1,000 crew members, like 800 of them are Filipino.
Yeah.
They do everything.
Yeah.
They actually like drive the ship. They're all the engineers, and the captain just kind of like tells them what to do.
Yeah.
But they actually do all of the work. So they had this like big party, and they cooked up all the fish, and they made all these different dishes, and they invited us, and we had lots of drink. So and it was like, we were the big heroes because they don't get fresh fish very often, and we had these like 2 huge bags of fresh fish, and we never got anything.
I
bigger.
bet they're probably not allowed to fish, right, from the boat.
Because
they're working. You're only working 2 hours or whatever, and you got all this time. But
you're not allowed at all to fish from the boat. But there were people all the time, even when the boat was at sea, that they would cast a line over. And I don't know what they would do if they got one, but so the next day, those 2 towels that we cleaned our hands with from the mackerel, we threw them in the crew laundry. The next day, like all of the crew laundry is like this huge drum that has like the diameter of this room. So I don't know, 10 feet across or something. And they put all of the towels in there. So every crew member that day at the mess was like, what happened to our towels, man? They all stink like fish. It's disgusting. And it was all from our 2 oily towels with the mackerel. We stank up that whole ship.
Oh man, that's funny. That's awesome.
It was a fun job.
What a fun time, yeah.
There's no responsibility, and we traveled the world and made money and played music and didn't work a lot. So it was a lot of fun.
It sounds great.
But it is related to hunting in that the whole time you're living in a metal box. So your cabin is like a third of the size of this dining room.
Yeah.
It had 2 bunks and
like
a
a dorm
bathroom
room.
and a desk.
Yeah.
And that was it. And you spent a lot of time in that cabin and a lot of time in this enclosed structure on the ship. And so when I got off these cruise ships, I was just searching for a way to get back to nature.
To expand out of like a confined area. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like Vegas on the water, where everything is manufactured by people. And so after a while, it just becomes too much. It's a manufactured experience.
Yeah.
All the restaurants are for tourists. All the experiences are for tourists. You're seeing the same thing that millions of other people are seeing all the time.
Right.
Which some of it is awesome, but it's you want something kind of special.
Yeah.
And so when I started hunting and exploring these great areas, you hiking into these swamps with waders or in with a kayak, you end up experiencing challenges, but seeing things, these amazing experiences like that big buck from 10 yards that very, very few other people ever see.
Also, I always think about this, like even in the suburbs, there's a place that you place your foot that no other human ever has ever. I did it this morning going to check a camera. I was like crossing through this really gross swamp. I didn't want to, but I tried to go around the edge, which was a nice easy walk, and I went over there and getting towards the edge of like a property where it's like close to a property line, and I saw a guy walking towards me, so I ducked back in, and I was like, I got to go through this swamp. I don't want to.
What'd you wear on your feet? You don't have waders?
No, I was just wearing regular shoes. So I went through this real thick, nasty swamp, but I was hitting the big broad leaves and finding all the humps, the green humps that they're mossy humps.
Yeah.
I just found those, and I hopped hump to hump, and
they don't always hold up.
They don't always hold up, but a lot of those humps, probably all of them, nobody has ever stepped a foot on. I guarantee it. And that's just kind of cool.
They grow up. Yeah.
And it's just kind of. Well, not even that. I don't think anybody walked through. This place was just thick, nasty. I don't think anybody's ever been through there.
I've been there.
Except for you.
There's a good chance.
But that's a fun thought, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like I'm potentially stepping somewhere where nobody ever has, and we've been around for millions of years, and the planet is so populated now that that's rare, But it's not as rare as you think. Go out in the woods, in the middle of the woods somewhere, and you can experience something nobody ever has.
I like to kayak on the Charles River in Medfield, and when you drop a kayak in there, if you look on the map, you're in the middle of houses and suburbs, and you're really smack dab in
but when you're in
Boston.
a place like that, you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, right?
You might as well be in Minnesota on a river in a canoe, because when you're there, you cannot see any houses, any buildings.
Yeah.
You might hear a little bit or see a plane every now and then, but it is a total nature experience when you're there. It's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, well, that was great, man. We're running up close to 2 hours here, so I think we'll end this one. But
well, thanks for having me so much.
Yeah.
I don't know if we accomplished anything, if we provided anything great.
No, we did a lot. We talked about some turkey hunting. We talked a lot of deer hunting in the middle, and then we got into some interesting stuff that tied back into deer hunting at the end.
I got to make the switch. I'm still so excited about that turkey season. It was so much fun.
There's something wrong with you. You can't be so excited about that now. Come on, you got to switch over as soon as
I'm making the switch.
As soon as June hits.
Once I was holding this thing here, I'm texting about my permissions here. The guy's like, "What are you talking about? It's June. Why are you talking about hunting deer?" But when is this going to air?
That's a good question. If I can get it all edited and stuff, we'll put it out on Sunday.
Oh, cool.
But if not, then the following Sunday.
Probably gonna have to cut a lot out, but you'll be able to. You'll be able to do it by then, right?
I'm not gonna cut anything out except for maybe a town or two's names that you mentioned.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good.
But dude, thanks a lot for coming. We'll check back in with you this year too. Throughout the season, if you want to come back and get a deer and tell the story, we'll do that.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is to maybe do like if you're not too busy, a build up directly before the season, or maybe like mid-season on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Like Sundays are the day, right? That you do.
Right.
Well, you release the show, but you must do a lot of taping.
But during the season,
Sunday.
I do a lot of taping on Sunday. Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Big bucks I've been dreaming often, every night till I'm in a coffin. Vermont woods to the burbs of Boston, I'm looking for a tree to get lost in. Crisp mornings, little dust in the snow, quality time, just me and my bow. Fall evenings, I know just where to go for some quality times for me and my